Hello everybody, ciao a tutti, welcome to Art with Ms.B. Today is our video number 11. So we are still talking about value and we're gonna do a beautiful, nice practice about this element. If you didn't practice with me about the element of value on video number 10, I highly encourage you to do so. Last time practice was a little long, but not very challenging, and it was an exploration of the way that we can represent the element of value through the colors, right? If you remember, and if you have the practice with you, you can actually get it back, so you have a reference, a visual reference next to you. If you need to grab the color wheels that we painted together a few videos ago, grab it and place it next to you for a visual reference, so you're going to make sure that when you do choices about colors, you have a visual reference in case you need it. So just to review very quickly, value is one of the fundamental element of art, right? And value is basically the representation of a light, so light and darkness, like light and shadows, and it's very, very important when we want to represent something, for example, in a realistic way. The future practice will be in fact a black and white practice, a more formal practice with a pencil, when I will introduce you different techniques that we can use when we draw something and we want to try to make it look as realistic as possible, right? So remember that we are working on a B-dimensional on a piece of paper. Now, if you imagine and picture yourself that you are entering in a museum and you look at a sculpture, and in the museum there is natural lights, if they have windows, or artificial lights, right, with the light bulbs, and they project this light from the side, from above, from below, depend on what the artist want like the sculpture to look like. So when you look at something that is three-dimensional, or if you go around inside the house or outside and observe stuff that you have around, you will see the real value, like the way that the light, natural or artificial, hit the surface of something and creates that light and darker areas, right? When we are working on paper, we need to create an idea, we need to create an optical illusion of the value. So whatever we do on the paper looks like a dynamic, more interesting, and in the case of realistic drawing, it looks a little three-dimensional. Correct? So value is not easy. This is why I started with a practice that was not challenging, but was long, just because it required different steps, right? Designing, coloring, cutting, and gluing. Today, the practice is going to be a little shorter, and along the way, I will decide if we're going to finish the whole practice today, or if we're breaking it up into projects. Maybe I will do it in one time, but as I always say, you know your schedule, you know the time that you are dedicating to art, weekly or bi-weekly, so you can do the practice, the entire practice with me, or you can kind of break the video into practice. In the description box, I will actually add instructions if you decided to do so. For today practice, we need a thick, heavy paper. I'm using a mixed media, bristol paper. If you have a watercolor paper, even better, because we're going to use actually watercolors, but thick, like heavy paper that can hold a wet media. We need the brushes, we need a cup with the water, we need a pencil for drawing. If you do not have watercolors, so if you don't want to use the watercolors, you can do this exercise also with crayons and with color pencil, like I said the last time, where I use markers, but I invited you to use also different media. I suggest you to have a box of 36, just because in the box of 36 you have a multiple tone of the same colors, of the same family of colors. Let's say that we talk about, like, for example, the green, right? You will have in the box of 36, you will have from very, very light green all the way to dark green. And this is what we are going to use. Also, in the practice of today, we're going to still use a sort of a still life, which is something that we introduced and practiced together when we were practicing about texture, another element inspired by Van Gogh with the technique of strokes. So remember, we are kind of, I will also guide you to be successful in designing a still life that is nice, central, balanced, and symmetrical. In the future, we might do a still life that is completely not symmetrical, not balanced, because we will explore also the principle of art and design and see how can we express like our own personal meaning or our own personal ideas and feelings doing and breaking some of these rules. This is why we are spending so many videos and so many practices in understanding the rules, in understanding the elements, so you will know them so well that you will be able to use them accordingly, but you will be able also to break some rules because you want to express something. When I will switch the camera, I will just like talk a little bit more about the value scale of the color, because then you will have to make your choice, and then we're going to start immediately to draw everything. Okay, so get yourself ready. You can pause the video and then practice with me. You can go slower, you can speed up the video and watch it all, and then practice at your own convenience, whatever fits you best. Okay, friends, here are the 4 gelatos. Remember, we were inspired by the Italian gelato that I'm about to eat because I'm about to leave for a vacation in Italy. And we kind of built the 4 gelato following like and representing the 4 families of colors that we wanted to, like all the blue, all the green. This is the only value scale that has actually 2 primary colors, the yellow and the red. But let's say that we wanted to do the value just for the red. You could have like a very light pale red, a little brighter red, fire red, dark red, and burgundy, for example. And then we try to do something with instead like a secondary colors and the tertiary, all the way from pale pink all the way to purple, right? So as you can notice, just we went all the way every time from light to dark, light to dark, light to dark. Now, I invite you to put these aside and choose the palette that you like the most to color our project of today. Also, I want to show you, I'm going to use watercolors. As I said, you can use pencil if you don't have watercolors. Now, I have this beautiful, beautiful palette of watercolors that has multiple tones of the same color. These are all the yellow, then orange, pink, red, then I have all the tones of green, all the tones of blue, and then the purple here, the brown, the neutral, right, on the bottom. Now, if you have something like that, it's gonna be like a little easier just because you can pick from the palette already the different tones. If you have less, it's gonna be a challenge, but a beautiful challenge, because you will have to kind of mix some of the colors together, right, to make something. For example, if you go with the orange yellow palette and you don't have all of these tones, it's up to you to use just first the like a pale yellow with a little bit more water than color, then you add just more color than water, you will have a more intense yellow, then you mix a little bit with some red and you will have an orange, and so on and on, exactly as we did when we did together the color wheel. So if you need at one point when we started to paint together, if you need to pause my video because you need more time to mix the colors, please do so. Okay, so today we're gonna review, we're gonna do very simple, very modern, still life. You're gonna do a vase with a plant just to have something to feel with these colors and focusing on the value scale. So as we say last time, we're gonna set for ourselves a sort of a plane, the table, right, doing a line. My goodness, let's do a little straight. There you go. Then we say, remember last time when we did the still life, we say that we don't put the vase on top of the line because it just, you know, would not give us any idea of three-dimensionality, would not create like any interest on the piece. So we're going to put the vase a little below. You can kind of trace your base, the base for your vase, and then I will go up. I don't want it to make it very tall because I want a plant, so I want some space on the top of the page. Then we're going to do like a border this time, something like that, nothing fancy. We are going to erase the line of the table inside the vase. We're going to erase it very nice, very well, because with watercolor we can always see underneath. Okay, let's review this, let's review this. And now we are going to divide inside the space at least in 5 different sections. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now we are going to draw a simple plant, really. develop a different, sort of like a geometrical plants, very not realistic at all, very fun, very simple. We are using straight lines, correct? Remember, right? And then we're gonna add leaves. And I want to keep it this division between the leaves because I'm going to use the value. I will have a one side that is lighter, one side that is darker. So you can do the leaves. At least what I do is like pretend that you're doing a little rainbow and another little rainbow, and you close it. Little rainbow and another little rainbow, and you close it. So like a rounded line, and that's it. Rounded line. That's it. Here and here. I will leave it like that. Maybe, let me see, maybe one more here. I want to fill this space a little bit. This is what you do. You look at the plant that you're creating and you see if you want to add a few extra leaves and branches to fill up the space a little better. Okay, this is pretty symmetrical. As you can see, imagine to divide the page in two. You have more or less basically the same element on the left side of your paper and on the right side of your paper. And now we are going to put away the pencil and we're going to start to color. So we're going to start today. Remember the first time that we painted the still life, I really highly encourage you to start from the background because you can go very well between the branches and that. But with this type of design and for the exercise of today, we're going to actually focus first on representing the value scale of the color that we choose inside the vase. Then we're going to actually paint the leaves and then we're going to paint the base and the back. Okay, so we're going to start with a brush and you choose your palette. I think that I will use the green, lighter green for what comes like when it comes to the leaves. And for me, definitely, I'm a cold color palette. These are the colors that inspires me the most, so I will use those. But if you're more like of a warm, or if you're more like on the pink and purple, please feel free to use the palette that it's, you know, it's the palette that you really want to exercise on and that you really want to focus on. Okay, so we can start to put the brush inside the water, and I'm going to actually put some nice music for me to just help me to relax, and I'm gonna start with a very light blue. Very pale. I'm gonna start from the lighter. If you want to start from the darker, sometimes it might be easier because you have the darkest color and then you blend it down. You can do that. Then I'm going to start with a darker blue. We're going to and you see when we paint with the watercolor, the practice, it's really faster, right, than when we color, for example, with pencil or marker, just because you can very easily spread the color with the brush. Remember about watercolors, friends, we use them for other projects, and the trick is that you need to use the right amount of water. If it's too much, well, it's gonna be like it's gonna blend too much, and you still want to have a little bit of control of this practice. But if it's too little, then the brush will feel kind of dry and it won't allow you to really spread the color nicely and easily on the paper. So you need to figure the right amount of water that you want and then you need it for this practice. And this is an incredible exercise. So once again, if something happened, the colors are a little too blended, is not a problem. Remember that we are learning together, so there is no need to restart over or to throw the practice. You're gonna let it dry, let it set, paint somewhere else in the meanwhile, and then you go back and fix it. And honestly, you can always do a second practice a little smaller than this, just to make sure that you got this, okay? So this is, if this is your first practice, please do not stress yourself. I'm gonna mix a little darker blue because I want it definitely darker. Don't stress yourself too much with if something happened, if your picture doesn't look like mine. Remember to be compassionate with yourself and to be flexible. The lucky accident that happen every time that we create art are actually beautiful life lessons because they teach us something new and how to face something unexpected, which is something that we need to learn in life many times, and mostly when you will grow up. You can ask your parents if you know what I'm saying is true, but it is. And art is such a beautiful life lesson, but very colorful. I think that I want to darken this up a little more, and this has to be really the darkest of my blue. So I scrub on the color palette a little more without picking more water. And now I have my scale done all the way from light to dark, and now I'm gonna color the top of my vase, and I'm gonna use still one tone from the blue palette, the darkest one. This is a very simple design, very simple practice, nothing complicated, because if we do something complicated, then the attention will go on the design, and you will stress yourself on the design itself without focusing on the representation of the scale, which is this is the focus of today, is this one. So forget about all the details. This is why I keep it simple. Also, when in school, I want the students to focus on something specific. I don't make it complicated at the beginning. We build step by step, brick by brick, and then we're going to do something that is more complicated. Now, I'm going to switch to a smaller brush to start to paint the leaves, and I'm going to use a lighter and darker green. So first, I'm going to use a lighter green. Remember, since the leaves are smaller, you want control of the color, so do not use too much water if you're using watercolors, because you don't want it to blend outside of the leaves. If that happens, it's not a problem. You let it dry, repaint the leaves, and then when you paint the background, you will cover the little accident. If you're using the colored pencil, you might need more time to finish, just because coloring with the pencil, with the markers, takes a little longer than paint with the watercolor. It is perfectly fine. You will finish after I do, and it's not a problem at all. I think that after like last practice and this practice, you will be definitely very familiar with the concept of value through colors, right? So when you will paint anything, a vase with flowers, a scene like a landscape, an object, or even an imaginary thing, you will know that you have to use lighter and darker tones, because you want to make your piece dynamic, interesting. You want to make it look like alive. That doesn't mean that you have to do it all the time, but that is definitely something that will add like a better result. I want to say like a stronger impact on whoever is going to look at your piece, right? Now I'm gonna switch to a darker green. I think I'm gonna use this one. Let's see. Remember, if you don't have many tones of green, you can create your own. Maybe you want to mix the green that you have with some of the blue, and you're going to create a more intense and darker green. Remember, when we did the color wheel, we can create the blue green mixing, in fact, bright green and blue, and you will have a little darker green. If you have a darker green in your palette that is ready for you to use, you can use that. If you're using the pencil, I want you to you have to prepare them in order so you're you know what to use to color. And once again, remember to breathe, to enjoy the practice, forget about everything else now. You are with me in your house or in your studio or whatever, and you're practicing. And I want you to enjoy, I want you to have fun. Because when we have fun, we learn much better, much faster, and we remember, right? In art, we remember and we learn so well because we experience, we have hands-on. And it's something that sometimes, we miss in other subject, that like a real life experience or the creation of something that is meaningful to us. And art gives us this opportunity. Now, if you want to go on top of the branches with the brush, do so. If you don't feel safe, you can actually let it dry and you can use a marker, a dark markers, a medium green markers, the same green that you use for the leaves, whatever. You can do it with a brush or with the marker. If you're doing pencil already, keep doing pencil. This is going on top of branches with these very extra fine lines. It might be a little too intense if you are a young artist or a beginner. So as I say, just put away the brush and use the markers to trace over the lines. We did the tracing in many of the other projects, and tracing is such an important practice because you exercise your fine motor skills. And the more you exercise those motor skills, the better you will become you will become more fluent, if we can say this way. And now we got it. And now we're gonna have fun to paint the background and paint the table. I'm not gonna add maybe for now any pattern, but you can do something different compared to what I do. I'm gonna switch back to my bigger brush so I can feel the area bigger. And of course, if I know that this is the lightest and this is the darkest, although it's not a realistic, right, painting, but maybe I want to do something, the color is going to be a little lighter on this side of the table and then a little darker on this side, just to go with the value that I represented on the vase. I think I'm going to go with the neutral. Let's see how this looks. on the scale of the value from light to dark in the leaves, and maybe light to dark in the background. You can do the light to dark using any color palette that you want, and also any media that you want. So if you want to use, as I say, pencil, crayons, whatever. As long as you understand the goal of this project and this practice, you can make your change, your personal changes. When you go around, be very careful. If something happens, it doesn't matter. We don't panic, because maybe we can use markers to do the outlines at the end, or we can kind of repaint it over using the same watercolors. The practice is very gentle. If you feel that your brush, that you're forcing and you need to press too much, it means that there is a little too little water and your brush is a little too dry. In that case, I invite you to dip the brush in the water, because you want it to be a very smooth, easy practice. The brush should flow on the paper. And I'm happy that today we did the opposite, and we did first the painting inside and then the background, because last time we did the opposite, right? We did first the background to be able to go inside the flowers, and then we paint everything else, which is something that usually you would do. But as I say, it is important to experience, to face the process, like different processes, and the practice in a different way, because then you learn, okay, let me think about it. What is the practice that is the best for me? What is the practice, the way to create something that I think is the one that I want to keep using? A little lighter yellow here. I'm going with a very light yellow, just a little bit on top, just to add a little more brightness. Now I want to start to kind of switch it to an orange, pinkish color. Let's see if I mix a little bit of dark yellow with a little bit of orange and a little bit of peach. What can I get? That's nice, I like it. And then we have to work a little bit this transition a little better. But for now, we're gonna use this nice color. If you're doing it pink, for example, you do you. You will play with a lighter pink, peach pink. You will mix maybe pink and orange and see what happens, right? And you will paint your beautiful background. Gonna mix it a little bit here, so the transition between the two colors is something a little more natural. If your transition are not as smooth as mine, it's not a problem. Remember, we are learning together. And if you like one particular practice, you can actually make a second artwork inspired by my video. You don't need to do exactly the same, but you can use the technique that we learned together, the practice itself, and try one more time and see if your second piece is better than your first, right? After all, really, everything in life is a matter of practice, art in particular, because there are so many fine motor skills that, it is not easy. So we need to give ourselves opportunity and chances to practice. And remember, we don't throw anything away. We keep every project because we want to compare and contrast. We always want to have something like we save our project, we finished. This is the first rule, number one. We finish everything that we start, even if we don't like it, even if we think that we did some mistakes, it doesn't matter. we embrace those mistakes, and we finish what we start, and then we save it, because maybe in the future we're going to do the same practice and we will improve, and we want to make sure that we know exactly what we did differently and why we improve, and we could improve so much. The idea is to build a nice portfolio, which is a folder basically, where you save all the projects from the first ones that we did together about the lines, and then the ones that we did about the colors, the ones that we did together about the texture and the shapes, and the ones that we are doing together about the value, and so on and on and on. The idea of this channel and the project that I include in this channel is just for everybody, every level, every age. And so let's say that you are not you are a teenager and you don't get the opportunity to practice so much art in school because you have to do other courses maybe, or you couldn't enter in the courses that you want. This video might help you to develop a very good understanding of principal element, and to experience a different technique and to build your own portfolio, so you won't feel behind. And just in case you have interest in art, even in college, you kind of have the foundations, right, to take other more advanced courses and create a stronger portfolio to apply to college. The practice itself, themselves, they can be a little challenging for very, very young or very beginner students, but it is okay. I always say you can simplify. I try to do something that is between, so people can kind of, stretch the practice and adapt it to their own skill level and age, experience, and what they like to do. Just speaking a little bit of water and just spread this out a little more. I like the way that the watercolors create, as I say, this like a natural value, because we spread in a little bit of water on top. We just like the water will do its magic and will blend the colors. Nice. I think that I see a lighter and then a darker. I like this orange very much. I'm gonna probably do a little more. I'm gonna bring it here and here too. Very gently. It's like you want to tickle the paper, I would say, right? And now maybe we can get a Sharpie and we can do some nice outline. I don't want it to have a realistic look, because this is not a realistic design. So you need to figure first, you need to check if your paper is dry. Okay, you can do it. If it's not, you're gonna wait, you're gonna do it later. I'm gonna try, although it's still a little humid. I'm gonna go on top of the lines that I traced with a pencil. I'm going to kind of outline the vase, and then maybe you can add a little pattern, a little design on top. Like that. And 1, 2, 3. I'm going to outline the leaves. Maybe I can actually outline also, if you want. You can also outline the branches of the tree, the plant actually. more than the 3. Need to be careful because my paper is still a little wet. And I cannot stress enough the concept that outlining something, it is not necessary. You don't have to do it, but it's a great practice to become better and better and better in your fine motor skill. So you will be able to outline the beginning. If you're a beginner or a young artist, it's going to be a little challenging because it's not easy to go exactly on top of the lines and make your lines look like smooth and well done. This is why I kind of, every time that I can, include outlining in the practices that I do with my students, I do. And I encourage them to do because it's a great practice. And sometimes it really makes the art project look better. I'm going to, oopsie, sorry. I want to retouch a little bit here because with my hand, as a left hand, my goodness, I'm always messing my paper. Sorry. I'm gonna make it here a little like thicker. Now if you want and the leaves are dry, you can add a little design inside the leaves. Remember, if your paper is still wet, you need to wait. Mine is still a little wet in some area, but I want to complete the practice with you. Then probably I will retouch the watercolor background. You need to make sure that, mostly if you have like sharpies, you need to use them on a dry surface. If you use them on top of wet painting, unfortunately, you will damage the Sharpie itself and it won't work as it should. So be patient. And maybe you can do the whole practice and painting in one session, and then on your second sessions you can complete the practice, adding all the designs, the outlines, all the work that I'm doing with the markers. You don't have to do it in one sessions. You can kind of stop and redo it in a second time. Now let me see what else. I'm gonna have fun. I'm adding lines, I'm creating a sort of a pattern. Just because when we, after we focus and we had the practice that we want, and in this case it was the reviewing together the value and how can we represent the value through the colors, so we can actually have fun and go back with, you know, with our memory to other practices that we learn together. We learn about lines, different type of lines. We learn about patterns, right? And so we can have fun. Now we will go with another color between. I'm using a purple. So I did the lines with the red first, and now I'm going over, not over, I'm going between the first lines, and you can go slower and you can do something different if you want. Another excellent practice, even if you're an adult and you want to kind of keep your fine motor skills sharp, this is an excellent practice. And maybe I'm going to do the same. I don't want to cover too much because I want to be able to see the value that I created. So in this case, my lines will be a little more farther apart because I don't want to cover the background. And as you will notice, if you're using a blue, like in my case, I'm using the same type of blue, it shows a little difference here than here. And it shows actually darker and darker according to the background. It's cool, I like it. Let's see what else we can do on the background. Keep your station clean. As you see, so I will, I'm using markers, then I'm putting them away. I save my watercolors. You will want to be neat and organized. Oh, look, I forgot a leaf. Poor thing. Sorry, little leaf. Hey, leaf, I didn't want you to feel all alone. There you go. Now you're all ready. And then maybe we can have fun and we can pretend that this plant has also some sort of a flower or fruit, and we can do circles. So we are reviewing shapes, something that we learned in previous practices. And if you use the same colors, for example, using an orange, you will notice that it will show differently according to the background that you use, darker and lighter. Be creative, and you can add to this one all the details that you want, really. Make it your own. Give it a personality now. Now that we really share, we finish the focus on the value and the element that we were doing, add the personality to this piece. So we kind of fill up a little bit this background that otherwise would be very plain, right? No, I want something darker. There you go. Good exercise, retracing circles. So the more you do these practices, the better you will become with your shapes. They're cute. I like it. I really, really like it. And maybe we can add something on the background just to make it super, super, super interesting. Let me see if I can find an extra fine. No, I think I'm gonna use this. It's fine. Purple. I'm gonna keep with the purple. Segmented line, broken line. Remember, we reviewed this type of line at the very, very beginning. You can do something different of what I'm doing. I'm just going with the flow and just looking at the piece, getting inspired, and I wanted to make it like a more colorful and more interesting. I always love to add the twist, but you will add your own personal twist. So if you want to use different colors, feel free to do so. I encourage actually you to do so. Different type of lines, different patterns on the background, whatever you think it works. If you don't feel particularly inspired, you want to use mine, my idea, feel free to copy me. Whatever makes you feel like engaged. Here it's a little bit wet, so this is why I'm kind of avoiding to insist too much with the Sharpie, because I don't want to damage my Sharpie. When we started to feel like between the leaves and like a little fruit or flower, the way you want to call it is the same. It's going to be a little tricky. Just take your time. If you need to go slower, go slower. And as I say, this practice, since we are using different steps, might be a little longer. You can do them with me, following my rhythm and my pace, and in one single session, or you can divide the activity in two. So in the first one, you can do like the drawing, you will paint the vase and everything exactly as I did, choosing of course your own colors and your own media. And then in the second practice, you can do this type of work. So you put your paper to dry in a safe place, and then when you're ready in your second practice, you can add all this pattern, and you can add your personal twist and your personality, because we want it to have, we want to have fun, and we want it to be something nice and fun. Because it is not realistic drawing, then we will practice some more realistic drawing technique in drawing and in painting, and it will be a little more formal, so there will be a little less flexibility for you. But so far, when we can have that flexibility and you can add some personality, please do so, because there will be a moment in which you cannot, just because we are learning something, we will be learning something very specific. You need to kind of follow my lead a little closer. But when we do abstract, we really go for it. And you will notice the way that the colors that you're choosing with markers to add the details and design, they will interact with the colors that you use to paint, lighter and darker, in a different way. And this is like it's an exploration, right? And remember this experience. Take mental and visual notes. If you're, older, you can actually take notes with a pencil behind your work and say, okay, this is what I've done. I did value, I chose this palette, and then I decided to do this and that. I have noticed that, blah, blah, blah. I need to remember that, blah, blah, blah. So you build up your knowledge, right? I really like it. It's so fun, so colorful. And it's making me feel very, very warm. I wish I could see all of your beautiful pieces. And remember, friends, that when we repeat, every time that we repeat a gesture over and over, is a sort of like a therapeutic practice, because it kind of helps us to set a right pace, a rhythm. We breathe and we kind of forget about everything else because we need to be focused in what we are doing, in this repetition of strokes, in my case, or any type of pattern that you're creating, right? Is a very therapeutic thing, the repetition of something, the symbol of a cycle, right, that we repeat. And voila, it's all done. So, my friends, our practice is over. This is my piece that I will save with the other work that we did about value in my portfolio. Make sure to clean up your stations, rinse and wash the brush, clean up the table, put away the markers, put away the watercolors or pencil, crayons, whatever you use, and make sure that you save this piece inside your portfolios, right? I'm gonna switch the camera for one proper goodbye, and I see you very soon with another beautiful project. Okay, friends, the practice of today is over and I hope you enjoyed. I really love to work with colors and pattern, and there was a little bit of everything. All the elements that we studied in my previous practices and my previous videos, we included them because I like to build up. This is why the choice and the selection of the activity and the projects at the order of the elements that we are learning together is not just random, right? I know what is successful and what really makes students and makes them improve and understand very well what they are doing. So I really highly encourage you to subscribe to my channel if you like it, to spread the word around. Of course, like my videos. Remember to like, because I'm very bad. For example, I follow some people on YouTube. I have two dear yoga instructors and I always do yoga with them, and sometimes I forget to put the like on the video, but then I know that for them it's very important, and I'm very grateful that they are doing this free service for me, exactly the way that I'm doing this free service for all the people, all age, all levels, that want to learn a little more about art, or homeschool parents, actually homeschool students, so homeschooling parents that really need resources for to build a strong curriculum. We save this nice, fancy, colorful design in our portfolio with the practice that we did the previous video number 10 with the value. Remember, if you don't have a folder, you can build one with a piece of big paper, or you buy one, or you keep everything organized in order from the lines, little by little, building up what we have been learning together. So I see you very soon with one more practice about value. That doesn't mean that we won't use it ever again. We will actually keep including all the elements, right, that we are learning and you are becoming expert in it. So I really hope you enjoy, and I see you all very soon. Ciao a tutti!